Welcome to episode 82. I'm here with my friend Natasha, all the way from Wexford. Let's go, let's represent.
Oh my god, it's been so long since those times, but at the same time, it still feels like it's like it was yesterday.
Yeah, cool. Can you let the listeners and audience know a little bit about yourself?
In the past, I did train to be an artist. I went to art school and OCAD University to do illustration, but I ended up dropping out and I ended up actually falling into the animal care field. So, for the past 10 years, I've been working with exotic animals with a focus on reptiles specifically. And I've been a veterinary assistant, zookeeper, wildlife educator, and I'm slowly trying to start up my own education business with my own animals.
Amazing. Let's take a dive bit in different direction and take a dive into memory lane. Let's talk about your childhood growing up.
Talk about my childhood growing up. I mean, it wasn't easy. I feel like I might need more specific, maybe
Like, how
questions.
was your upbringing like, and how did you overcome some of those struggles you had?
Okay, big questions. Growing up, I did have some issues that I can definitely get into later on that explains a lot of them. But growing
Yeah,
up
yeah, no
was
problem.
difficult because I didn't speak until I was 4. And, I did at some point run into some troubles with adults and kids, and I wasn't able to speak and talk about those experiences until I was much older. So there was some troubles there with communication, and communication has always been a bit of a struggle in my life, even today. Although I can speak very well, I find it hard to sometimes want to ask questions or speak a certain way. But my mother raised me as a single mom.
Hmm.
My father left when I was around 7 or 8 years old. He just slowly stopped coming home, and I feel like I didn't really notice. But there was a lot of fighting in the house up until that point, and it was a lot of stress. But as a child, I didn't really notice it. And I also had a hard time making friends as a kid. So ultimately, my two passions that I had were art and animals. So if I was inside, I didn't have any friends, anybody to talk with, I'd be drawing. And if I was outside at recess, I had no kids to play with, so I would be going through the grass, finding bugs and insects and critters of all kind, and that was my two passions right there. And my mom obviously had a hard time trying to give me everything that she wished she could have because being a single mom, so she did go into some debt trying to, get camps for me and
Yeah.
daycares and classes and all that kind of stuff. And my father just was not providing at the time. And then as I got older, my dad's problems got worse.
Hmm.
And we still kept in contact. He would still see me for Christmas and birthday. But unfortunately, my dad was an addict, alcohol and hard drugs. And I think when I was about 12 or 13 years old, he started to get into heroin, which was really, really bad. And he started to really unfortunately become overtaken by his addiction. And now, at my age that I am now, I don't talk to him as much.
Hmm.
I know he still loves me and he still cares for me, but ultimately it is a struggle that he has to deal with, and it has gotten in the way of our relationship. But my mother did a pretty good job trying to provide for me everything that she could have. We didn't always see eye to eye with things, and we still don't. There's a lot that I wish I could ask of my mother, but I simply cannot.
Hmm.
Definitely when it comes to like emotions and struggles with mental health, my mother just doesn't understand those
Yeah.
things. So it was a surprise when 2 years ago I was actually diagnosed with level 1 autism, and a lot of things started to make more sense. So
Hmm.
I feel like that's a little overview of kind of my life, some family struggles, how my passions turned out to end up being what I studied and what I do for work now. And yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. What are some of the highlights of growing up, like the good moments?
The good moments? I'm trying to think. Some of the good moments I would say is my mother never let me be lazy. there were some moments she would, but she always had me going out hiking or bringing me to the playground or engaging me in like art classes or nature camps, bringing me to little day trips to the beach and going up north and camping. I'd say those are some of the highlights because, you know, it really showed that as a mother, she cared and wanted the best for me. Those were some of the best highlights, I would say, as a child that I remember. And it was nice to kind of get away from school and daycare because ultimately I struggled with friends and
Yeah.
keeping them or making any of them. So just being able to indulge in things that I was actually interested in, or I was a big mama's girl growing up, and I just wanted to be around my mom all the time. So just spending time with her was important to me.
It's like solitude became your power in a way.
It kind of did, and even now it still does, but it's that nice balance of solitude and being sociable that I have a hard time juggling nowadays, especially with like my social media growing. But it's nice to kind of have a little bit of both. I just need to make time for my solitude because that's where I recharge and gain my energy back.
Yeah, adulting is hard.
It really is. I don't like it at all.
So after Wexford, so you went to OCAD? What did you try to study? Like,
I
fine
went
art?
to like illustration was the program
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
guess I thought I'd be best suited in. I probably should have went for drawing and painting though because ultimately where I struggled was the advancements and the demand of technology, and I was a traditional artist that liked using all different types of media, using my hands, you know, drawing on like papers and painting on canvases. I absolutely despised working and drawing on a computer, and I just
Okay.
my brain didn't understand it. I really did not like it at all. But ultimately, if I wanted to make it into a career, I would have to overcome that technology barrier. And I just didn't want to. I was too stubborn. And then I started questioning if I really wanted to make this as a job or if I wanted to keep it as a hobby, despite being rather skilled in it and having such a strong passion for it. I just was like, I don't know. And then some issues going on at home and my mental health slipped. I ultimately just was like, I can't do this. I'm dropping out and I have no clue what I'm doing. But ended up falling into the field of education and animals. So it ended up working out for the
What
better.
was the pivotal moment for that switch? Or was it like the pressure or like how what was that pivotal moment for you?
It was kinda interesting. It was almost like a little breadcrumb trail was kinda laid out for me. So before I went to university, I was working at a small animal education business that I found through Wexford. There was an advertisement for it at Wexford, and I volunteered there. And in high school from the age, I think, like, 16 to 17, up until I was 20, 21 years old, I cared for these, animals that were used for educational purposes. And it was a nice little kind of laid back job with flexible hours for somebody like me that was in high school at the time. And then I went to university and I still had that job, but then she ended up closing down her business. And I also dropped out of OCAD at the same time. But she ended up selling her animals to an accredited zoo called Little Ray's Nature Center. And through that, I got the connection through her, because she said to them like, I have like some amazing employees, like please take them. But I wasn't ready at the time, so one of my coworkers who's now a long-term friend of mine ended up working with them, and I saw that she was doing this traveling all over Canada. She'd be posting pictures of mountains and working and seeing wolves and working with owls and all
Wow.
kinds of like crazy exotic animals, and I was like, I want to do that. So I ended up volunteering at one of these zoos events about 2 or 3 times, and I wanted to prove myself and show them my work ethic, and then with my friend's help, she also kinda influenced them to take me on, and before I knew it, for 3 years, I ended up traveling around Canada with these mobile zoo exhibits and getting up on stage and doing presentations in front of hundreds of people and
Wow.
working with these, like, amazing animals, and it just wasn't something that I expected to happen to me,
Look
and
at
it was
you, look at
probably
you,
the
wow.
it was the best years of my life, the traveling. I got to see almost all the provinces, and we got to see mountains and oceans and whale watching and behind the scene tours at zoos all over Canada. And I was like, wow, dropping out of school is the best thing that ever happened to me.
With that, those kind of experiences, what kind of mindset shift did that have on you? Like how
A
you
major one.
yeah.
It had a major mind shift, mostly about how I viewed myself, because growing up and, after hitting puberty, I struggled a lot with like depression and suicide ideologies. And, I didn't feel like I was worth anything. I thought it was stupid, actually, and that the only thing I was good at was drawing. And that was my only way to make it in life. To find out that apparently I can do great presentations and teach other people about wildlife and conservation, and teach people about animals that usually aren't favorable by the general public, such as reptiles. They have a lot of myths and misconceptions about them. And the people that I worked with really were kind to me and encouraged me. And I remember feeling that this is the happiest I had ever felt in my life, and that I was worth something, that this job made me feel like I had a purpose in life when I never felt like I had a purpose before.
Yeah, oh my god, so many people struggle with that, including
Yeah,
me, like, it's like, my ideas didn't matter or, like, I don't have this or I don't have that, like, it's like overcoming those limiting beliefs.
exactly. And I anytime I feel like I'm worthless, like I just remember those times, like I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of. I just needed to push myself and needed the nurturing and kind environment that was provided to me to be able to overcome those issues.
Yeah, how do you see yourself now, like, these days, whenever you doubt yourself?
These days I still do struggle because I do remember the past
Yeah, of course.
and how it affected me still to this day. A lot of the bullying growing up, of course, affected me, and I still struggle with my issues. But now I kind of have a little bit of a reputation behind me, and I've been working in this field for 10 years. So, people might first meet me and think maybe I'm like a little socially awkward, a little odd, but then I tell them what I do for work, and it kind of sparks a conversation, and then they kind of get to know me through that and realize like I'm not just, some weird girl that you just walked up
Yeah.
to. Like I have passion, I have knowledge, and I want to learn, and I'm eager to learn. And that there's just somebody behind this face, that's what I always struggled with. The person that is on the inside is what I want people to see the most. And before, it was just through my art I was able to, show people who I am. But now I have a little bit more. As you can see, there's this massive reptile room behind me
Yeah.
that took about 4 years to build. So I didn't realize what I was capable of. And now I feel like I have a little bit of confidence and I can show people like this is what I'm capable of.
So why reptiles? What made you wanna specialize in reptiles in particular?
I guess when I had the first animal job in high school, there was a mammal room that we called it and a reptile room.
No.
And I thought I was more into mammals, but as I started to work with the reptiles more, they were just so unique and different. And a lot of them were actually quite easy to care for and keep, quite a few of them at the same time. Sorry, my throat is dry.
No worries.
But I think one of the biggest reasons actually has to do with the fact that there is a massive reptile community and hobby that ultimately I ended up connecting with. There's all these reptile expos, they're all over North America. And through the hobby, I was able to make friends. And I found it very easy to make friends with people that had, common interests, especially with these animals. And we all are, want to learn more about them and share our knowledge that we have on them with other people. And I think honestly, the hobby and the community is what sold it for me as well. But, the reptiles themselves, like, I just find absolutely fascinating. They're just so unique and so different and so misunderstood. Kind of like me, I feel like, I was misunderstood my whole
Yeah,
life. People maybe were scared of me or thought I was weird, or I don't know. So I feel like me and the reptiles, we kind of have a little bit in common, that there's more to us than what people just see on the outside.
yeah. What are some of the, like, fun facts about reptiles?
Fun facts about reptiles. I feel like, when people come across snakes, a lot of the time, people's biggest fears are like, are they venomous?
Yeah.
But 75% of snakes are non venomous, and there's a very, very small percentage that are able to kill a person. So snakes are not dangerous as people think they are. Snakes are rather harmless, and most reptiles, if you leave them alone, they're going to want to leave you alone. I'm trying to think of some other interesting facts that I could say about them that people commonly misunderstand. One of the most important things that was actually told to me by the lady that I worked for when I was in high school was she would always say, "You don't have to like something to respect something." So I always tell people that you don't have to like snakes. People have their fears and they can like what they like, but it's still important to respect it, especially when it comes to conservation, because every animal, whether you like it or not, has a place in this world and in an ecosystem. Learning more about them and still making efforts for conservation for those animals, even if you are scared of them or dislike them, is still very, very important for our Earth and our future of the planet.
Oh, cool. Only time I held a snake was in a pet sto pet store. It was a boa constrictor, and it slithered around my wheelchair.
I love snakes. They're my favorite to let people touch because the muscles and them just slithering through your hand. For me, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, someone, "Ah, I can't handle it." Run away or something.
That's okay. People are allowed to be scared of them, but my favorite thing to do is try to get people over their fears and realize that they're not as scary as people think.
Yeah, of course, of course. So you have been in a lot of, like, wildlife conservation areas as well?
One more time.
Wildlife conservations, you said? Have you been to different ones throughout North America? Throughout Canada?
Definitely more so in Ontario. I probably have been to some like throughout the rest of Canada, but around where I live in Scarborough, we have the Rouge Valley, and that's
Yeah.
a protected area. And I actually go there quite frequently in the summertime to go look for wild reptiles and amphibians. And we find, all kinds of like different turtle species, snake species, frog species, newts, salamanders,
Wow.
and it's a great place to look for them and really like learn more about them and engage with that kind of wildlife, as long as you're doing it respectfully and you put everything back where you found it. I've been camping to like Algonquin Park when I was younger. My mom definitely took me to all kinds of areas, and Canada is really beautiful. Banff, I'm pretty sure is like protected there. Visited Lake Louise, and some of the other places I just can't remember because I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
so many, but there's
Wow.
lots of beautiful protected places, and I always encourage people to do more for sure.
So for the last 3 years, you did this? Wow.
Until the pandemic, and then of course traveling was not allowed, and I technically lost my job because of that.
Mm. So, like, you have your own business right now or what?
Yeah, slowly I'm starting up my own animal education business. So I have a small YouTube channel. I just reached 4,000 followers, which is
Wow.
amazing. But I am currently working at Ripley's Aquarium, and I'm the exhibit lead for the dragons exhibit that just opened, which is a reptile exhibit that's provided by the zoo that I worked for and did the traveling for. And then during the pandemic, I was working at a store called All Reptiles, pretty popular store for people that are in the reptile hobby, and also working at my veterinary job. So I was kind of like juggling those jobs a little bit. So I have quite a few different sort of like what would you call like fallback plans or
Yeah.
fallback jobs and a lot of connections. So I like keeping those connections as well. They're really important to me. And I love all my jobs. It's hard sometimes to pick just one, so sometimes
Yeah.
I do juggle the two, but ultimately I would like to kind of step away from that and focus more on my own business with doing YouTube, doing educational like shows and parties and events where I bring my own animals to people's places or events and, do like educational presentations and people can like touch and hold some of the animals, get pictures with them, and get up close and personal and learn more about them. And I also do my own reptile breeding. Right now, I would say the most common species that the species that is the most popular and that I breed the most and is the most demanded are something called emerald tree skinks. And in Canada, there wasn't too many available years ago, so I started to breed them, and now there's been other breeders that have been slowly popping up so that we can provide a captive bred population instead of taking them from
Yeah.
the wild, which is ultimately what we want to avoid. We want to keep animals wild and in the wild, but sometimes to get things started, there's more advanced hobbyists, I guess, like myself, where we're really into the hobby and we try to breed these species to provide new bloodlines and captive bred population for people.
Cool, cool. And to end off our segment, what would you say being limitless is in your own words?
What is being limitless?
Yeah.
Definitely don't limit yourself with fears and trust your gut and your instincts and take every opportunity that comes your way. Don't be scared to take opportunities or change your course or path in life just because it's what you had planned or what you're expecting. I just kind of hopped into doing this kind of stuff and went against my own mother with dropping out against school. And I straight up told her, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And I just kind of followed my gut and my instinct and kind of just followed these opportunities that came my way. And despite not knowing what was going to happen and being scared of the future, I did it. And now I realize that to get to places in life, I might have to make some uncomfortable decisions and deal with, scary things like change or doing something that I might be uncomfortable with. But don't let fear get in the way of your true potential because you never know that past that fear might be where you like will lead you to where you need to be in life.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for coming on and for your insights and your time. Thanks, Natasha.
Yeah, thanks for all the questions and it was nice seeing you again.